The
Definitely.
national news in the UK.
That's cool.
The
Does
last,
he-
the last massive fight in B dash whatever it was made the
BTAC
BBC.
R5RB.
Yeah, that was on the BBC News.
Well,
I can say
I
I've
guess
been in both.
it's when it's a slow news day in the UK and they're not worrying about the impending doom of leaving the European Union, they're going to talk about something.
Oh,
They're
fuck
never
that
leaving
shit.
the UK.
Eva's far more important.
The Brexit.
Anyway, is anyone going to be recording and/or taking notes? Because we're going to wait until I have someone who is.
Yeah, I'm recording it over the Amteco fight.
Okay.
Please don't crash.
Okay.
Please don't crash.
Alright.
Please don't crash.
All right. So it's pretty straightforward, but we haven't had a meeting in a while, so I thought I would do this, and we'll have a time for questions and other bullshit at the end. But I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about where we're going as an alliance, what we're doing. Obviously, I'm in my third year of med school. I'm pretty busy. I'm not around as much as some people would like, so there's not always as much FCing content, which is why we live so close to Horde. That's no secret. So I basically wanted to talk about where we're going to go from here, and it's mostly structural changes, and I was going to add some stuff like, we need more FCs and blah, blah, blah. That shit never happened, so I'm just going to leave that part out this time. So basically, the meta of the game is slowly changing, and I think it's probably for the better. CCP have recently introduced these fucking like vacuum cleaner, dick-sucking orc walls that basically just gulp down ore, and what the side effect of that is going to be is that T1 doctrines are going to get much, much cheaper. And that includes caps, by the way. So we're already in this era where a ton of people have caps and they're being dropped in nearly every fight probably, and this will probably continue. And so we can either fight this or we can roll with it. And one of the interesting things about this is that the Rourke walls are basically going to slowly, and things like them, which may not be implemented in the game yet, are going to slowly be replacing the traditional income from moons. This is CCP's stated intent, and this is probably going to continue. So what's interesting about this is it's very easy now to directly attack an alliance's income because they have to put it at risk. If you're going to put these workloads down, they're vulnerable. And so we've shown that by killing some in Declan pretty recently, and we're going to continue that kind of thing. And I'll talk about that in a bit. But so essentially the side effect of this is that caps and supers are quite important, even for a smaller alliance like Honor, whereas before it just wasn't worth investing the ISK and time. Now we can do it fairly easily with socialist mining ops. And just to give you a sense of scale, I've had a Rourke wall for about a week with excavators. There's been like one or two other people in the alliance, mostly who haven't been donating it. I don't blame them for that. They have to recoup costs. But we've had a couple mining ops with like mostly barges and like one Rourke wall with excavators. Already we've built 5 capitals for the alliance. They're in build right now. And so that will only continue to basically exponentially get larger as we start getting more and more people with excavator drones. And we're going to probably do either an op today or tomorrow, and I'd be surprised if we don't get several capitals during the space of one op. So even though they're getting nerfed on Tuesday, it's going to be ridiculous. And I would encourage you to, among the other things that you're training, consider doing that. It's a good source of income, and you can just shit out caps. Like even after the changes, every 4 work walls can shit out a carrier every 40 minutes or so, which is just insane. So we're going to be really focusing down on caps right now. Our cap group has been expanding extremely quickly. We're getting like 15 to 20 people on random pings during random times of the day. There are some weak points though, and that's sort of what I want to talk about a little bit. Our anti-cap power is relatively weak right now because we have very, very few dreads, and that's understandable because you hardly ever use a dread compared to how expensive it is. But the problem is when you need it, you really need it, right? So I've been talking with Andrew and other people, and essentially what we decided was we're just going to skip dreads and go straight to supers over time. So this won't happen right away, of course, and the Sotio that we're going to need to construct these things isn't even built yet. So this won't happen right away. But what we need to do is start prepping for that. And so I want everyone to have a carrier if possible, and we're going to basically be helping people along by socializing these things. Up until now, I've just been giving them away to people. I'll probably implement some basic requirements in terms of like you have to be in the alliance like 3 months maybe, or maybe more than that, I'm not sure. Just to make sure that people aren't just grabbing them and leaving. It hasn't really been a problem yet, and in fact, we've seen the amount of ISK that the alliance has brought in, and our cap numbers go up substantially after we implemented the program, but I just want to make sure that doesn't happen. So we'll continue to do that. There may now be some small costs associated with it because we're just mining the minerals. The ones some of the ones I've handed up until now was actually a generous donation by Vry, so the ISK paid for everything. However, now we're basically building them out of the ore we mine, and you can't build like T2 mods and rigs with ore. So basically, when you get a socialized NID, you may have to pay for the rigs. So you might pay like 100 or 200 mil for a carrier. So that's how it's going to be from now on, and Nippon is going to be building those. So I'm trying to get as many people as possible into a Nidhogger. And this is useful for a lot of reasons. Nidhoggers are really versatile, and carriers in general are. It's a great ship to have as an individual. It's a suitcase. It can move you around. It does damage. You can make money with it if you lose all your money. It's very useful to have. So I'd like to start getting everyone into Nidhoggers. Unfortunately, without faxes, carrier fleet is actually fairly weak, as we can see people lose these ships all the time. And so we're going to have a heavy focus on minnows. We actually have 2 in build right now. There's also a subsidy. So it wouldn't be fair for us to give the minnows away when we're basically subsidizing them and other people are paying us. So what we'll probably do is I'll just sell the minnows to people for whatever the cost is minus the subsidy. So you can either buy your own minnow and get refunded, or you can buy a cheap minnow. It's exactly the same thing. So we're going to be focusing heavily on getting people minnows right now. Once again, these aren't as useful as carriers generically for your average person. And, that makes sense to me. That's why we're subsidizing them really heavily. So you might even make a profit if they die under insurance. I don't know. But it's very important if we start deploying supers at some point in the future that we have a huge minnow fleet ready to drop, because you basically face tank with your minnows. So moving on here a little bit. The supers will be basically, we haven't figured out the specifics, but essentially you'll have to be in the alliance for some time to get these, longer than the carriers, and you will have to buy them at like a subsidized price. They'll be quite cheap obviously, and we'll basically build as many of them as fast as we can. But I think we're going to go pretty much entirely Hells. If you're not getting a Hell, you're not getting anything from the alliance for it. And that's just because we're a Shield Super Alliance and Wyverns are pretty trash. So we're going to go Hells. The DPS these things do is pretty retarded. With all the short-range missiles and effects and blah, blah, blah on, they do about 24,000 damage per second, which is about, I don't know, like 3 T1 Fit Dreadnoughts with T1 guns. It's pretty retarded, and we can dominate pretty heavily. They also can do 9,000 DPS to subcaps from like anywhere. It's pretty ridiculous. So we're going to be focusing pretty heavily on that in the coming months. So basically also to fund this kind of stuff, a socialist mining ops will continue. We also have a small tax on every person in the alliance that is basically being paid through the corps right now, including, of course, CDIT. It's a 3% basically equivalent bounty tax. It's been fairly successful so far, actually. Listnave has been fucking beasts with this shit. They've been like a huge amount, as well as CDIT. And basically, we've raised probably about 7 bill. What this is mostly going to be used for, and has been used for, is infrastructure costs and partially refunding losses on caps. So that is something that we're going to be going for as well. It's not going to be a full refund. We can't afford that. But it's basically going to be for like upfront costs that the Alliance needs to pay. We also invested some of it into an Asbel recently, as some of you may have seen in CTECO. You're welcome to build caps there, by the way. Please do. Nippon is building most of the ones for the Alliance right now at no cost. In fact, he may even be losing money. I'm not sure. But like, you're welcome to do it as well. So there's a full setup in there, and Riker's also put up some disgusting fur fag name of a Riker in YKSC that you can copy your blueprints at. So lastly, we're going to be sort of transitioning. Andrew and I were considering doing a Balgorn fleet. I think that's actually not going to happen. Andrew was going to pay for it very generously with some help from the Alliance, but considering that Horde is now, we're going to count on some Horde caps to basically support it. And considering that Horde has now embraced the good kind of shield caps, not dirty armor caps, I think we're not going to be going through that, especially because Andrew did some API checking, and very few people in Honor can fly an Apostle, let alone have one. So it's just not a viable fleet for us to do as much as I wanted to. I think we only bought 10 of them so far, so we'll be liquidating those. Now, instead, the Alliance and Andrew, possibly, I don't know, put together will be pushing towards a rattlesnake fleet instead.
Yes.
We had one in the past. We didn't use it. Eve has changed
Yeah.
since then. We may not use it very often, which is why I'll probably look at socializing it. That's what I tend to do with fleets that we don't use as often, because otherwise people bitch at me. But honestly, you guys should be getting so rich from all the carriers and Rorquals and shit now that it shouldn't be a big problem. But I think we are going to end up socializing those. And obviously minnows and all of our other caps will synergize really nicely with those rattlesnakes, and we can even use Logi Tengus and stuff like that. So that'll probably be happening. They're really good for grid control and working with capitals. One thing I'm fairly proud of is that even though we've lost one or two prominent members of the Alliance, we've done really well lately. I don't know if you guys have noticed, we've had some excellent Gila fleets in late US time zone, killing Rorquals and fighting goons. Most recently, we fought about 250 goons with about 90 Horde and Honor made up about 30 of those people, and a large amount of the Gilas and most of the Bassies. And we fought 3-1 and came out almost ISK efficient against T3s and Macarials and Caps and Gilas, and we've also killed 40 bill of Caps in Declan not too long ago. I know this is a small consolation for EU players, but I'll try to do what I can for you guys, but it's very hard. That's why we live with Hordes. So anyway, we'll also be investing some more infrastructure in 8W and WQY as soon as I get information from Chuggies Corp and Serenity Cartel. I'm just going to pay them for the more ratting sites and mining sites down there. So that's going to be something that we're going to be focusing recently or in the near future. And then I'm getting some PMs, guys, so I'll read those in a second if you have something important to say that I'll add. And then lastly, the thing I wanted to talk about is we're going to be refocusing. Obviously, the Tribute War is pretty much over. We're going to have some new PvP targets, and it's going to be a lot of what we've been doing already, but a little bit more organized. So these Moose Federation fuckers up there, we're going to try to like Moose fuck them a little bit. We're going to try to hunt their Rorquals and hunt their Caps. So what I need for that is I need Cloaky Hunters and Spy characters if people can spare them. I know we already asked for a ton of alts, like Cap alts, Sign Wells, all that stuff, so I won't be too upset if nobody does that. But if you have any like random characters that you think you can get into Darkness or whatever, you can do that if you want to. I don't know. It's more just for killing those Rorquals up there because they've been super salty and like AFK camping our systems and gay stuff like that. So we can be a little gay too if we want to be. So, you know, fuck, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I need someone to go ahead and volunteer now to like look for Alpha Corps, people that accept Alpha Corps, and any of the people that we're going to be focusing more on. And that's Moose Federation, Scourge, and to some extent MOA. Now what's funny is like all of these groups like fight each other, so it's like we're not really taking any side, but these are all people who live close to us who have fleets out on the regular and occasionally do dumb stuff. Scourge I wouldn't expect anyone to be able to get into Scourge. They're only Russian and they're pretty competent. So Scourge will be more of like an opportunity thing. But
Hello, Russian
basically,
Polaroski.
But basically, MOA and Moose Fed will be people that we're looking at shitting on a little bit and flexing our muscles if we can. So mostly that's what I have. I'm going to read these PMs real quick and see if someone's reminding me of something that I didn't remember to say. Let's see, Chucky, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so one thing, yes, I would say that we'll require, I don't know, yeah, I would say that Turnfalk asked me a question, will we require triage alts for supers? I think that's pretty reasonable if the Alliance is going to give you a super at a loss, basically, or at a very cheap price. You should probably have a triage alt. I don't know if I'm going to enforce that. I'll talk to other people, but you really, really should. The other thing is, let's see. So, yeah, just basically focus in on what the Alliance is doing. Make sure you can fly the basics before you start training for Hell or something, and please do it on an alt. Like, I know it takes a little bit longer, but if you do it on your main, you just like in modern Eve, you cannot win the cap fight if you can't win the sub cap fight generally. So if everybody gets into Hells on their main and stuff, it's just going to be totally shit because we won't be able to support them. So make sure you can fly Tengu, Nightmare, Gila, that kind of stuff on your main, and make sure you have the right ships. And even though we haven't used Tengus recently, like the meta goes back and forth. I'm sure people can tell you there's times when we use Gilas a ton and then it kind of tapers off. We're using Tengus every day, and then so it kind of goes back and forth. But you need to have a Hamgu if you can fly one in your hangar. We've been Jewing so much recently. There's really no excuse to not have one. So have a Hamgu, have a Gila. The Nightmares are sort of socialized, but have one if you can. And basically make sure you're still maintaining your sub caps, but we are going to be focusing quite heavily on caps. And as soon as you can, go ahead and start training your alts towards flying one. As I said, I don't have a timeline on exactly when they'll start becoming available. It'll be hopefully relatively soon. And I'll have to figure out like how, like who can buy them. I don't know. That's going to be a mess, but we'll figure that out. It'll probably be like first come, first serve. Whoever has the ISK ready to go first will get to buy the first hells. So I'm aiming, so this may not be accurate at all. Okay, I'm aiming for a price of 12 billion ISK for a hell, which sounds like a lot if you've never bought a super before, but they're going on the open market for over 20 right now. So, you know, it's a fairly reasonable price. It's under build cost, actually. Considering that we're socializing the minerals, this is basically a way that the Alliance can make a little bit of money, and also people can get a hell really cheap. And what we'll probably do with the money that we make off selling the hells is, once again, capital SRP and potentially super SRP. I don't know. We'll have to think about that.
Okay, so keep in mind, if you don't mind, sec. If you're going to get into a socialist cap or you're getting a cheap super, we need your APIs. So PM myself or Andrew with your full APIs, all of your accounts, all account APIs, non-expiry.
Yeah,
that's the only way you qualify.
We have a cap and super group. The super group is obviously not that active right now, but the cap group is quite active. And if you have a capital, or you're about, well, you kind of need a capital, but and you have JDC 4 or 5, you really need 5, okay? But if someone's ratting in a JDC, Andrew made this point, if someone's ratting in a JDC 4 carrier, we want you in the channel so you can ping that you're getting tackled. Like, so, but you really should get 5. But if you're interested, you can PM Andrew or Umbraya, and they'll get you into the cap group. Or I think some of your CEOs can do it too. I'm not sure about that.
Your CEOs can do it.
Yeah. So, but we have a quite active cap group here, and we form up pretty often to go dunk.
However, I will note that if you are in a super, you do need to PM either me or Umbraya. That is no exceptions. Capitals will let your directors do it, but supers, that's not the case.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it may seem like I'm being like sort of Nazi on like only hells, but like we're a small alliance, and basically we have to compensate by being small by having a really tight doctrine and working really, really well together. So that requires that we basically have the optimal setup for our alliance. And so that means like no dirty Aeons or something like that.
I want an Aeon.
If you want to buy my Aeon, let me know.
I want a Weaven.
What if you have Shield next?
Shield Nick sounds awesome.
Can we stop the Spurs? Is there more?
Yeah. We've got too many people on this channel to spurge a lot. I don't know. That'll be like a case by case thing.
No, like this is like a legitimate question.
Zach, do you know this one, or should I take it?
Hello?
Like, I guess if you have a Nyx already, you can convert it to a Shield Nyx, and I wouldn't be too upset. But don't buy a new one. It's so easy to cross-train for caps nowadays. There's no excuse, really, to get a Shield Nyx. Basically, a Hell does the same thing that a Nyx does, except it's tankier and does the same thing.
Zach, I've got a quick question for you. If we're building Hells, are we going to be building Nags as well?
So,
sorry, not Nags, Rags.
That was basically, so here's the thing. Titans are kind of like a niche sort of thing in terms of for an alliance like us. Like for PL, they can have so many of them and so much faxes that it's just having more ships on grid is better. But honestly, like supers are probably better for what we're doing. Maybe I wouldn't say no to that, but it's not something I'm thinking about in the near term. Like once we have a decently sized Hell fleet, then yeah, probably. But it's not going to be something I'm thinking about right away.
Okay, I was just asking because in about a month's time, I'm going to be a competent rag pilot.
I would say, like, there's no rush to get into a rag. And honestly, I would say, unless you're already trained up for everything else, it's kind of a waste of training time because there's other stuff. Okay, well, then in that case, that's great. You could see what we use the Titan for right now. It's actually incredibly useful, like to have the Alliance Titan or the Corp Titan that CDIA has. That pretty much is my Titan, but that I use. But you could see how useful it is. But on the other flip side, I would never use it for combat simply because if I lose it, we lose our capability to bridge, and that's something that you kind of need. So until we have a sizable super and minnow and cap fleet, I wouldn't imagine us using a lot of combat titans. So you should just keep that in mind if you get one. I know people get one and they get all excited, and then
if you don't have experience dropping, it's not worth getting. Basically,
and the other thing is, if you're not okay with being a bridge bitch, like 99% of the time, it's probably not for you right away. I mean, even in PL, like, yeah, they use Titans against CO2, but like, you don't get to use them in combat as much as you would like, unless you really danger zone them, and then you're kind of putting them open to being lost. But I would say that's a possibility in the farther future. Let me see. I've got a bunch of PMs here.
I have a quick question, Zach.
What's up?
So I trained to get into the NAG, the Corp one, and so we're not going to really be using dreads. Do you think I can like sell that back, or maybe?
No. I did not say we're not using dreads. It just won't be a big focus in terms of socializing. We absolutely still need dreads, and like we honestly need as many as we can. It's just we've been pushing them for a little while, and it just hasn't been that good. So I'm just going to accept that we probably should just push for supers instead of building up a ton of dreads. If you have one, it'll still get used. Like okay. We won't be pushing as hard for them. But as I said, it is one of those situations where a dread is something that you only need when you need it, and it's not that often, unfortunately. But yeah, if you have one, keep one. And I still have I've handed out a couple socialist dreads to people, so they're floating around somewhere. I also have an extra one to just hand out at any time on Securitas in 7RM. So I mean, we do have an okay amount of dreads, and it's still a good thing to train if you have nothing else to train. But I mean, people just haven't been doing it, so it's like you can only really push so hard for it. But I would push very hard for minnows. Like short term, get a Nidhogger, get a Minakawa, and in the longer term, plan on getting a Hell. Like nowadays, it is just so easy that any person can get a super. Like there's no reason you can't. Like, a carrier ratting, if you really try hard, it makes 250, 300 mil an hour. Work wall makes about the same. And the build cost of a Hell is about 14 bill. So, and you'll probably be able to buy the lines from 12 bill. It's really not that much. It sounds like a lot, but I mean, people used to buy Titans with their own ISK when they were 90 bill. So this is super, super cheap. Remember, you'll still have to fit it though. And the fittings do cost ISK. And we will have an alliance fitting. Yeah, we do have an alliance fitting that I will expect people to have. And obviously, super fittings are never one fitting. You have to have a fuckload of different things that you can swap in and out. But I was pointed out, and I studied this later in PIFA and talked to Avery and some other PL super. I've been consulting a lot about this, and basically the pimp is so worth it on a super. You need to have it. There's no way you can fit a T1 or T2 super. It's going to be expensive, but it'll also be worth it. I think for us to, I think Honor can be a super. I don't want to say power, but I think within 3 months, if we try, we can have a pretty sizable super.
Who the fuck is doing that?
Lumpy, fuck off, dude.
Well, Lumpy, please.
Securitas, I got a question for you.
Server ban.
Yo, Lumpy, what are you doing, dude?
Can't hear us. He's trying to be able to get it.
He's trying to fix it as well.
Oh, okay, whatever.
Turn off the fucking notification where people.
Yeah, that's actually probably not a bad idea. All right. Anyways, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions or stuff that people want to ask.
Maximus, go. Maximus was talking.
The question that I have is, now that you're pushing us in the direction of becoming basically a super alliance, having supers and whatnot, with the advent of the keep stars, is that going to be a possibility in the future for being able to store them? Are we going to keep them in 7RM? How is that going to work?
Yeah, we will keep them in 7RM, I think. Obviously, as I said, you should have a super alt. You should not be doing it unless you're in main. So worst case scenario, they should be able to be logged off somewhere. But yes, we will keep them in 7RM. That's why you need an alt, by the way. Because imagine if Horde decides to move in 3 months. Okay, I doubt it. I don't see that happening. They've dropped a bunch of stuff that indicates that I think that's unlikely. But if Horde moves, we move. That's just how it's always been. And if you don't have an alt for your super, you're going to be in real trouble. So don't do that to yourself.
Sell it for profit at that point.
I mean, you could, but I'm just saying, like, don't do that to yourself. There are keep stars. I think there's even keep stars in range of 7RM and low sec. I don't know for sure. I can't remember.
No, there aren't. But
No, there aren't.
you can go straight through a
Yeah, but
Citadel.
there's Citadel chains and stuff. I mean, worst case scenario, you can always do that, but it's like, don't do that to yourself. So, but yes, we will probably keep them in 7RM. That's where we keep our cap fleet, except for the ratting carriers, pretty much anyway. So that's fine.
Well, that was the reason I was asking, is because basically I'm limited to 2 accounts based off of the funds that I'm able to afford per month.
Yeah, that's
So-
fine. You can put it on your second account or something. I mean, as I said, you don't need this is as your ability to fund it. Obviously, if you can't afford a super, like supers just have a certain cost, and if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. That's fine. I'm not saying that every single person should get it. I'm just saying for those people who can, like, this is the time to do it in the near future. And I think a lot of people can. But if you can't, then you can't, right? Like, if I was not, an alliance exec and stuff, I would have probably a difficult time myself, just because of time limitation and stuff. And I may not even end up getting super myself, probably not. Yeah. So if you can't, you can't. But if you can, you can. And basically, the way that you know that is, do you have a character that you can train up? And remember, if it's going to take you 3 months to get the S to buy a super, you don't need to inject into a super today. You can just train it over, like, even your most basic alt can train in, like, supers are a lot less skill points than people think they are. Yes, you should have yes, ideally you should have 50 mil SP and all the things that make a super good, but as, like, getting into it is not terribly difficult, and then getting a decent amount of skills out of it doesn't take too much longer beyond that. So
you need fighter bombers and fighters 5. You need carrier skill 5, and you need JDC skills, or jump drive calibration, and probably conservation 5.
You need
Conservation,
heavy,
you can have
you
both.
need heavy fighters as
Yeah.
well.
but
Yeah, that's what I said.
fighter bombers.
505.
I guess
Oh,
they're called.
sorry.
I guess they're
Hold
called
on.
heavy. I guess they're called heavy.
Why do you need heavy fighters 5? You only need
But
4
you don't.
perfect.
Yeah, I think Umbrai is being a bit. See, this is what I'm talking about. And no,
You want that damage, dude.
you want it, but you don't need it. So here's what I'm saying, right? This is how Eve is changing. It used to be that supers were like what the highly skilled pilots flew, but I think that's changing, and you'll see that, I suspect, in the next 6 months with goons. They're mining so much right now. They're going to be able to produce supers so quickly. They're going to get very cheap, and I think the future of supers is a little bit less like high bar than it was. Like, there's still things that you need, and yes, you should have fighter bombers 5, and yes, you should have carrier 5. But those things just add damage. They don't add tank. They don't add survivability in the case of the Hell. So yes, it makes you do more DPS, and yes, that's a great thing. But would I rather have an extra Hell with someone who has fighter bombers 4? I would rather have that. So I think Umbria is wrong on this case, and I'm the alliance exec. So,
Well,
That's fair.
but you do need JDC 5. You do need those other skills that make, basically what I'm saying is, you need utility skills to 5 and damage skills as high as you possibly can. 5 preferably, 4 if not. Okay, because fighter bombers 5 does take like fucking
That
2
month
months
or
or
2
some
months,
shit.
kinda.
Yeah, so
it's like 6
so that one skill for an extra, I think it's 5% damage, like, is going to take everybody 2 extra months. I would rather have, more supers earlier.
I mean, if we're gonna have the choice of the pilots, we should really pick
yes,
the ones with the best skills.
But some people will probably buy their own for more expensive or whatever because they want it sooner. All I'm saying is that I would rather have people. But yeah, you do need a good skills base. But I would say having fighter bombers 4 is probably okay, probably good enough.
I've got a question.
Sure.
Go.
So to that effect, could we get like, I guess like a written skill plan for like what you expect us to have, like the stuff you were just talking about, but like somewhere we could go
Yeah,
to
I'll
and
deal
read
with
it.
it.
And Bragg, going up.
Yeah, got it.
And make it reasonable too. Remember, just
Yeah,
think about,
yeah.
like, okay. Yeah, so we'll get that out. Yeah, as I said, in my mind, the main obstacle to getting supers is really ISK and stuff like that. So I think that'll be the primary challenge for most people. Kind of skills will be something that people are more easily able to obtain, I think, and because that just takes time. ISK takes dedication and stuff.
can I rat my super?
We're not even going to start before we have a good, we're not going to start talking about that right now.
Well, I mean, at this point, I've already got a super pilot. I got to figure out something else for the industrial side of stuff. So That's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
I'd like to point out the fact that the Keep Star is now at 48%.
Yeah, and I'm actually very proud of you guys. There was 63 honor in local, according to the local scan. Like, I'm very happy with that, actually.
If you rat in a super, you shouldn't be allowed to have a super.
Guys, can I just point out that I have finally started to cycle my guns for the first time in 5 hours.
I would like to say I've been
finally-
for the last 15 minutes, and I'm just now coming out of the warp.
I feel like people are exaggerating because I flew there, died, and am back already.
I
I
feel
went
like
and
I've died.
crashed undocking.
I actually feel like I've died.
Hey guys,
Were
let's
you in an
focus. Hey guys, let's focus a little bit here. Does anyone else have any more questions about alliance
Yeah, I do.
direction?
I do. So, Sec, if we got a minnow pilot at the moment, do you want people to also train up for carriers or what?
I would say, okay, so in an ideal world, everybody has, like their main, and they have like a carrier alt, and they have like a minnow alt. Realistically, that's not going to happen. For some people, that's a possibility. For some people, it's not. I would accept like people having like one, main or subcap person, and of course, some people will have no alts, and that's fine. Okay, but if you're going to do this, I would suspect that having one capital alt is fine, and that capital alt can fly triage and carriers and whatever, because then you already have all those like capital support skills that are the part that takes so damn long to do anyway. So cross training into a fax when you can already fly carrier, it doesn't actually take that long compared to doing it, all over again. So yeah, that's fine. Train it up all on one character. Just please make it not the character that you use all the time for subcaps, unless both of your characters can do subcaps, in which case it's fine. So, anything else?
I have a question, but it's completely inappropriate.
Okay, well,
Can we hear it, please?
we'll try to bulldoze through this meeting first, so you can put it in Spaceship Samurai text chat or something, and then if it's
One other question that I have is currently you have a 3% tax on the bounties for rats. Are you also going to impose a 3% tax on any kind of reprocessing industrial?
There's no way I can do that without basically making it impossible to build anything, because it won't discriminate between people who are reprocessing the ore that they're selling for themselves and the people who are reprocessing it to build supers. So as much as I would like to, I can't really. So I would like to, but as I said, I really can't do that.
I mean, if they I'm gonna shut up.
Yeah. So unfortunately, it's impossible. People will basically, as I said, this is sort of works on the honor system, because for the mining, the way that people will quote unquote pay that tax, and it'll actually probably be more than 3% if you average it out, is we'll have that socialist mining op once a week. And as I said, I can't force that people go. I can't force that if someone's like secretly like mining for them. So I'll never know that, but that's sort of how mining will give back to the Alliance in terms of making us be able to build supers. So as I said, I can't enforce that. I just have to trust you guys to like make this Alliance great. And one more thing, and this is more for a transparency thing. So Lumpy's Corp is currently not required to pay tax because they just had a 60 billion-isk loss due to someone stealing from them. So if anyone has this huge problem with that and like think that's really unfair, my corp will pay his tax for him. That's fine, but I'm not requiring that he does that because I think it's a bit unfair to expect that after he just lost 60 bill to a corp thief.
Sorry to hear that.
No, Lumpy.
Or Lumpy.
So, but yeah, so that's sort of how it'll go in terms of that. Yeah, so get caps, get supers, get in the cap groups, get in the super groups, and let's drop on people. And I'm pretty happy with where we are right now. So.
Oh, we need more hunting tunes, by the way. Like we're severely lacking.
Well, we can only do so many things at once, but yeah, we need more of everything. Always.
I mean, mains can hunt. If you have Sino 5, you should PM me.
We're gonna be definitely hunting. We're gonna be definitely hunting more work walls up in Declan because that spawns some pretty good fights.
Hunting or camping?
Yes.
I'm trying to think about the diplomatic ramifications of this before I do anything. For now, hunting, I think. Hunting is perfectly fine. AFK camping is a bit sketchy, although we're currently doing it to MOA. That one system. Poor Insu, or poor BND. Buju's been camping them for a couple days, and they renamed one of their procurers to Fuck Securitas.
Ezra Aderon has Sino 5. He's the guy, and he has Covops 5. He's the guy I use for my hunting alt.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Honestly, like, it's harder to drop nowadays on like mining ops and stuff because like Rourke walls just make them basically invulnerable to blops of any kind unless you have like 90 people and bombers, and even then they can bridge subcaps in with a panic mod and blah blah blah. So it's kind of something we have to hunt with subcaps. Fortunately, C4C is now in range of the Titan from 7RM, so what we can do is like move subcap fleets into C4C, and then I jump the Titan over and we bridge to Declan. We almost did that the other day, but they caught wind of what we were doing.
Yeah, they did.
So, quick question about where we're going to go with ARFO. Are we going to be doing more building of ships and more industry there, or are we just?
Oh, we already are. We already are. As I said, we're already building 5 caps for the Alliance, like right now, down there, and I suspect it'll continue to grow.
It would be better if you guys do your building inside of CTECO, actually.
Yeah, I'd like a clear plan of that, like exactly where, because I was so confused with all the structures where I should be reprocessing, researching.
Well, they're all different, so they all have names on them, or they should, and saying what they're for, because the rigs are basically determine if they're even good at doing what they're supposed to be good at. So one of them's good for building drones, and I don't know, Maximus put rigs on it, so I'm not sure what else it can do, but Rikers in YKC is good for copying. There's one in CTECO, a Raitaru that you can build cap components in very efficiently, and then the Asbel you can build caps in. And you guys might sigh like, oh god, there's so many of them, but this is just how it is. Like, there's no way around this. CCP have made it so you only get 3 rig slots each, and you just can't make one thing that does everything really well. The upshot to this is that even if you did that, like you made a Sotio, which is the biggest one, you dropped it, and it was just good at building everything. The more you build in a single system, these NPC taxes start to go higher and higher, and you cannot avoid them. There's no way that you can avoid them. And so the Sotio, for example, like right now, if you build a super, it's 800 mil in taxes, like base, but it can go up to like 3, 4, 5% of the cost. So you can imagine that can get quite expensive if everybody builds in the same place. So there is a reason that we've spread it around a little bit.
Try not to build in Zero Tech A, if at all possible, please.
Well, for now it's fine.
Yeah.
It's no secret that we have an agreement with some PL alts or something to basically build a extra large super construction array in OTAC A. And once that goes up, I'd like people not to build too much in there because it'll affect the taxes on building supers. But that will be up. I'm not sure exactly when, soon-ish. And you can, of course, if you want to, you can build your own super in there, right? Like if you go buy the BPCs and you mine your own ore, you can do it. I assume most people won't want to go through with that, but you can do that if you want to.
We do have BPOs lying around. Contact people.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I would have a question about then, since what you just said about PL alts or whatever, once the actual Sotio goes up and it's in operation and all that kind of stuff, would you want to move manufacturing from OTAC A over to CTECO? Basically,
we probably will, but I think there's not that much manufacturing in OTAC A right now. But yeah, we'd probably want to do that. I won't even worry about that until the Sotio goes up, though. Like right now, it's vaporware, and I have no idea if it'll they tell me it's going to go up, and we've agreed to it and stuff. But for all I know, they could change their mind tomorrow, and then we'd have to find a new solution, and that might. So I think we want to commit to this super path no matter what. So if they decide not to do it, we may end up having to source our own Sotio, which will be very expensive. But I think it's something that we have to do as an alliance eventually. And I don't know how exactly we'll do that, but we'll find a way.
How much is a Sotio?
I'm still thinking of selling my Hugin BPOs. So if I want to reinvest the ISK I get from that, that is a possible path I could go down.
You have a Hugin BPO?
Yes, I do.
Just don't sell it. Just say it.
Don't honestly. So yeah, Siobhan, I would not, like as I said, up to you. But like a Hugin BPO is basically a nearly passive means of income, as I'm sure you're aware. So I would keep that, and it's only going to get more valuable as time goes on. And we can source the ISK. Like, there's no problem.
Its value's gone down considerably over the last 2 years.
Yeah, but they make ISK every day, not fucking BPOs of Hugins.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Siobhan, I think sourcing the ISK is something that we can figure out. But basically, a Sotio, I think, is actually not that expensive in terms of the actual whole of the Sotio itself. I think it's about 16 bill or something, or 30 or something like that. It's not as much. It's not as much as a Keepstar at all. The build cost is a lot lower. However, the rigs are quite expensive for the super stuff. So that's where the real costs come from.
So we
do fucking farm salvage.
What can you farm 40 bill of salvage, Evan?
Well, not immediately, but you can do it over a period
I
of
don't
time.
even know how many. I'd be interested to see how many fucking havens 40 bill of salvages. It's probably a retarded.
I did a Haven just recently. And salvaged it. I got 4 mil.
Yeah, so you can imagine that's 4,000 havens or something, or is it 40,000? I'm not sure. It's a lot of havens.
Divided by the number of
My point is, it's a lot, Evan. It's difficult to salvage that much.
I know it's a
And
lot,
then
but you can use it to help you achieve that number much quicker.
So transportation of ore around to all these different arrays to process them, are we going to have a means by which we do that? I think that's something we need to look at as far as, well, okay.
Wait, what do you mean? So what?
Then we have to, so like, for example, my wife mines. She enjoys mining, she enjoys building, and she operates out of ARFO. But if I have to then find a way to move all that ore to all these different arrays and spread the BPCs and O's out to these different areas for the different production methods, I'm going to need a way to move that. I'm not too far off from using a jump freighter, but I don't have 8 bill to drop on a jump freighter right now.
You don't need that. No, guys. First of all, it was getting a little off track. I don't want to turn this into an industry meeting. Some people would kill themselves about that. However, considering that you can compress ore in an Astra house, and there's an industrial that has a 60k ore hold, you can transport like 1 billion ISK worth of ore at a time in that thing. So, I mean, it's really easy. So you don't really need that.
All right, thank you.
Anyway, so let's, does anyone have any other questions of stuff that's not like directly related to the minutia of building? Like, let's focus on big picture stuff here, please.
Big picture stuff, hold on. I know this was brought up earlier. I know there are a ton of you guys that have caps that have not sent me APIs to get in cap group. Please get that fixed ASAP. Thank you in advance.
Calm down, Skynet. Jesus Christ.
I never sent you an API for the cap group, and I got in it.
Well, some people got boosted by map kills, and I need to get that fixed at some point, but that's not my fault. So yeah.
So wait.
Sek, I have a question.
The cap group by rap kills. You need my API.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sek. So Hunter alts. Do you want it in corp or out of corp?
In corp's fine. Like, people are scared of a neutral no matter who it is.
All right, can you invite my Hunter alt then?
Just app him up and make sure you let us know who it is.
Yeah, we'll do.
All right. Is there anything else? As I said, I just want to cover big stuff in the meeting, so we can always talk about. If you always have questions about little stuff, you can always send me an email or something, PM on Discord or something like that, and I can get to that.
If you have super or cap questions, PM myself or Andrew as well. We don't want to flood Sek with shit.
Yeah. So,
is it worth for those that don't have as much experience with caps having a little session on CC?
We will train you. Yes.
Yes, although personally, I think that just after your first or second drop, like, we usually are not dropping into mega risky situations all the time. You kind of just pick it up. But that's kind of how I've always learned trial by fire.
One thing I will say is having access to the text channels in and of themselves is a very valuable resource. Like, you should actually read what goes on in there. You pick up a lot of stuff passively. just from casual conversations that go on.
We make fun of people a lot, and you'll pick up what not to do off that generally.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. I always see good info in the cap channel.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I'm happy with my minnow, but I've never flown a carrier, so.
If you want to talk about it sometime, just PM me or whatever, and we can. Just
and once
like,
again,
cool.
guys, sometime Nippon, I'm sure Nippon can say when, but there's going to be 3 nitties coming out of builds quite soon. When they are done, I will ping out, because like people send me PMs, and I always like the order gets all fucked up, and I can never remember who mailed me first. So I will ping when they're available, and we'll just do it that way.
Okay.
Wait, what were we gonna say, Andrew?
Nothing. I know of 2 people that already like needed one. So
yeah, there's like hella people that need one. The problem is like even if you PM me now, like it'll just get like messed up and just like I don't know. I'll just ping when they're done. That's like the easiest way to do it. And I'll try to like ping both in EU and USTZ, and so that it's like not all focused on one TZ. So, but yeah,
I have a question for the cheap minnow. Do I have to have JDC 5 to get it, or no?
For minnows, that's I think
yeah, you kind of do, unfortunately, because if you're jumping in to save someone and you're like, and we're calculating that you're in range from 7RM and you're not, it's like a problem. I would say yes.
Also, I don't know if this is brought up, but we do require that you actually buy the fit along with the minnows so that you're actually useful before we supply subsidies.
Pretty much, if you're going to fly cap, you need JDC 5.
He's got a point, yes.
Yeah. It may not be something that you get like right away when you're just ratting in a Nidhogg or an Otake, but it is something you need to get if you're going to be serious. Unfortunately, I really think it's dumb that CCP have some stupid range skill in there, but whatever. They do, so we have to deal with it.
Look at it this way. You can get a cap with JDC 4, and you'll be fine. But it should be the first big skill you train. It's pretty much it.
Get out! Like, okay, so hold on. We let you in with JDC 4 because a ton of ratting carriers have JDC 4, and we want them to be able to ping. You are not dropping on PvP drops with JDC 4. Like, period.
Yeah. Like, you can go fuck off.
You'll get stuck is the problem, and like we'll sign you out, and you'll be the only one left. It's just like it's such a mess. Like
no, I was asking because I wanted to get a minnow and set it up for ARFO, in case for help there.
In that case, like there's always, there's hard rules, and then there's like stuff. There's some granularity in terms of like if you know what you're doing and you are able to do it, and I would never know the difference, then that's obviously something that you can figure out. That's not going to be very popular with Andrew and Brian. But if you're just like having it in ARFO to save people rourke walls or something that got tackled, then that's probably fine. If you're using it for like just apply for the subsidy when you get JDC 5, like because it's just the problem.
And then PM Andrew or I personally tell one of us like what's going on, what you're doing, etc. And we should just let you in.
How do we know once we're aligned?
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Who was asking? Who wanted me to PM about hunters?
That would be on Brian.
Between you, whenever you have selected, you're going to select the Horneister house, and you're going to wait till you're aligned towards that. Then you're going to MJD. Very important. You wait until you're aligned.
Anyway, unless someone has a burning question, I think that'll be it for me.
Burning crotch, but that's good.
Okay, all right. You can shut off the recording now. Whoever's recording. Thank you guys for coming.